Grace walked through the airport coffee shop, her carry-on bag catching on a chair as she tried to navigate the crowded space. At 33, she felt every bit of exhaustion from the past few years etched into her bones. Her blonde hair was pulled back simply, and she wore comfortable jeans and a white shirt. Practical clothes for traveling with her 6-year-old daughter waiting at the gate. She had exactly 20 minutes before boarding. 20 minutes to grab coffee, use the restroom, and get back to where her daughter sat with Grace's mother. 20 minutes in a life that had become a series of calculated moments and careful budgets. The line moved slowly. Grace checked her phone, mentally reviewing her schedule. 2 job interviews in Seattle, both on the same day to save on hotel costs. If she could land either position, she could finally give her daughter the stability they desperately needed. When she reached the counter, she ordered a simple black coffee. No fancy additions. She could not afford them, and besides, she had learned to appreciate simplicity over the past few years. "That will be $4.50, the barista said. Grace reached for her wallet, and her heart sank. She had left it in her bag at the gate with her mother, not wanting to carry everything through security twice. She only had her phone and boarding pass. "I am so sorry," she said, embarrassed. "I left my wallet at the gate." "Never mind." "I have got it," a voice said behind her. Grace turned and felt the world tilt. Standing there in a crisp white shirt with a leather messenger bag over his shoulder was a face she had not seen in 15 years. A face she had loved when they were both teenagers with dreams bigger than their small hometown. "Ethan?" she whispered. He smiled. That same smile that had made her heart race when she was 18. "Hello, Grace." The barista cleared her throat, and Ethan handed her a bill. "2 coffees, please." Whatever she ordered, and a cappuccino for me. They stood in awkward silence while the barista prepared the drinks. Grace tried to reconcile the boy she remembered with the man standing before her. Ethan had always been handsome, but now he carried himself with a confidence that came from success. His clothes were expensive, his watch probably cost more than her rent. "What are you doing here?" Grace asked as they collected their coffees. "Business trip," Ethan said. "I live in Boston now. You?" "Job interviews in Seattle," Grace admitted. "I am trying to relocate for better opportunities." Ethan gestured to an empty table by the window. "Do you have a few minutes?" Grace checked her phone. 15 minutes until boarding. Just a few. They sat across from each other, the golden afternoon light streaming through the windows. Grace wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, gathering courage to face the past. "You look good," Ethan said softly. "Different, but good." "You look successful," Grace replied, unable to keep a slight edge from her voice. Ethan smiled sadly. "Is that what it looks like? Designer shirt, expensive bag, buying coffee without checking the price." "Yes, that is what it looks like." "Fair enough," Ethan said. He took a sip of his cappuccino, studying her. "What happened, Grace? After high school, you just disappeared." Grace felt the old pain rise up. "I got pregnant, remember? That was kind of a significant event." "I remember," Ethan said quietly. "I also remember asking you to wait, to let me finish college so I could support us both." "I had 2 more years. And I had 9 months, Grace replied. 9 months before I became a mother at 19. I could not wait, Ethan. I needed help then, not 2 years later." "So you married him instead," Ethan said, pain flickering across his face. "You married Drew." "He offered stability," Grace said. "He had a job, an apartment. He promised to take care of us. What was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to trust me," Ethan said. "You were supposed to believe that I would come back, that I would keep my promises." Grace felt tears prick her eyes. "I was scared and alone and pregnant. Drew was there. You were not." The words hung between them, heavy with 15 years of hurt. Grace took a shaky breath. "Besides, it does not matter now. Drew left 3 years ago. I am a single mother working 2 jobs just to pay rent. My choices are ancient history. Do you have a picture?" Ethan asked unexpectedly. "Of your daughter?" Grace hesitated, then pulled out her phone. She showed him a recent photo of Sophie, blonde like her mother, grinning at the camera with a missing front tooth. "She is beautiful," Ethan said, his voice gentle. "What is her name?" "Sophie. She is 6. She has your smile, Ethan observed. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ethan asked, "What kind of jobs are you interviewing for?" "Administrative assistant positions," Grace said. "Nothing glamorous. But Seattle has better pay than where I am now, and my mom is willing to move with us to help with Sophie." "Where are you now?" "Still in our hometown," Grace admitted. "I never made it out. I got married, had Sophie, and then Drew left. I have been trying to rebuild ever since." Ethan was quiet, turning his coffee cup in his hands. "I went to college like I planned. Got my business degree, then my MBA. Started a tech company with 2 friends. We got lucky, had the right idea at the right time. Sold the company last year." "That is wonderful," Grace said, meaning it despite the bitter twist in her chest. "You achieved everything you wanted." "Did I?" Ethan looked at her directly. "I have money, sure. I have a nice apartment, a successful career. But Grace, I eat dinner alone every night. I wake up in an empty bed. I go to parties where everyone wants something from me, but no one actually knows me." "That sounds like a choice," Grace said quietly. "It was not supposed to be," Ethan replied. "I dated after college, even got engaged once, but it never felt right. I kept comparing everyone to a girl I knew in high school who made me laugh, who understood me, who I was supposed to build a life with." Grace felt her heart clench. "Ethan, do not do this." "Do what?" "Tell the truth?" He leaned forward. "I never stopped thinking about you, Grace. I know you made the choice you thought you had to make. I am not angry anymore, but I need you to know that success means nothing without someone to share it with." "Then find someone," Grace said, her voice breaking slightly. "You are successful and handsome, and you can have anyone you want. Do not look back at some high school romance and think it was more than it was." "Was it just a high school romance?" Ethan challenged. "Because I remember planning our future. I remember talking about the house we would buy, the kids we would have, the life we would build. I remember promising to love you forever, and I meant it." "We were kids," Grace protested. "Maybe," Ethan agreed, "but some promises do not expire." A voice came over the loudspeaker announcing boarding for Grace's flight. She stood up quickly, needing to escape the intensity of the moment. "I have to go," she said. "Thank you for the coffee." Ethan stood too, pulling a business card from his wallet. "Take this, please. Even if you never want to see me again, take it. If you ever need anything at all, call me." Grace took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact sent a shock through her, a reminder of all the touches they had shared when they were young and in love. "Goodbye, Ethan," she said, walking away before he could see her tears. She made it to the gate just as final boarding was called. Her mother took one look at her face and asked, "What happened?" "I saw Ethan," Grace said, buckling Sophie into her seat. Her mother's eyes widened. "Ethan, you're Ethan." "He is not my Ethan," Grace said. "He never was." But as the plane took off and Seattle grew closer, Grace could not stop thinking about the look in Ethan's eyes, the loneliness she recognized because she felt it too. That night, lying in her budget hotel room after her mother and Sophie had fallen asleep, Grace looked at Ethan's business card, CEO and founder. The card read, with a Boston address. She thought about his words, about promises that do not expire. She thought about the life she had built from scraps and struggle, about the choices she had made out of fear and necessity. And she thought about Sophie, who deserved more than a mother working herself to exhaustion just to survive. Grace opened her phone and composed a text to the number on the card. "This is Grace. I am sorry about how I left things. If you are serious about catching up, maybe we could talk sometime." She hit send before she could change her mind, then immediately regretted it. It was late. He was probably asleep. He had probably forgotten about her already. Her phone buzzed 30 seconds later. "I am serious. How did your interviews go?" They texted for 2 hours. Grace told him about the interviews, both of which had gone well, but would not pay as much as she hoped. Ethan told her about his company, about the loneliness of success, about realizing too late that money could not buy the things that mattered. "Can I be honest?" Ethan texted. "Seeing you today was the best thing that has happened to me in years. Even if you never want to see me again, thank you for those few minutes." Grace stared at the message, her heart pounding. I would like to see you again. But I have Sophie now. She comes first, always. I would expect nothing less. Can I fly out to see you? Wherever you end up, Seattle or somewhere else. No pressure, just coffee and conversation. Grace thought about it. I am staying in Seattle for 2 more days. My mom has Sophie tomorrow. We could meet for lunch if you wanted. I will be there. Send me the address. The next day, Grace met Ethan at a small restaurant near her hotel. They talked for 4 hours, bridging 15 years with honesty and vulnerability. Ethan told her about building his company, about the pressure and loneliness. Grace told him about her marriage, her divorce, the struggle of single parenthood. I am not the girl you remember, Grace said at one point. I have stretch marks and debt and a 6-year-old who needs me. I work 2 jobs and barely make rent. I am not successful or put together. You are raising a child alone while working 2 jobs, Ethan said. That is more impressive than anything I have done. Success is not measured by money, Grace. It is measured by character. And you have always had more character than anyone I know. What do you want from me, Ethan? Grace asked, needing to understand. Honestly, I want a second chance. Not to erase the past or pretend 15 years did not happen, but to see if what we had was real. To see if we can build something now, as adults who have lived and lost and learned. I am scared, Grace admitted. I have been hurt before. I have a daughter to protect. I know, Ethan said. And I will do whatever it takes to prove I am worth the risk. I will move at your pace. I will get to know Sophie. I will show you that I am not going anywhere this time. Over the next 6 months, Ethan proved his words. He flew to visit Grace every other week, staying in hotels and spending time with her and Sophie. He attended Sophie's school play, helped her with homework, learned to braid hair after watching tutorial videos. He never pushed Grace for more than she was ready to give. He never used his money to try to fix her problems, though he quietly paid off her medical debt after learning about it, framing it as an early birthday present she could not refuse. Slowly, carefully, they built something new. Not the teenage romance they had lost, but an adult partnership based on mutual respect and genuine connection. One evening, 9 months after their airport reunion, Ethan took Grace and Sophie to dinner. After they finished eating, he got down on one knee, not just in front of Grace, but in front of Sophie too. Grace, 15 years ago, I made you a promise to love you forever. I kept that promise even when we were apart. I want to make that promise again, officially this time. Will you marry me? Then he turned to Sophie. And Sophie, will you let me be your dad? Not to replace anyone, but to be there for you, to love you and your mom, to be a family? Sophie looked at her mother, then at Ethan, then back at her mother. Can I call you Dad? I would be honored, Ethan said, his eyes bright with tears. Then yes, Sophie said, but only if Mom says yes too. Grace looked at the man who had waited for her, who had proven his love not with words, but with actions, who had embraced her daughter as his own. She thought about second chances and promises kept and the courage it took to believe in love again. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Grace wore a simple dress. Sophie stood as maid of honor, and Ethan cried when he saw them walking toward him. In his vows, he said, I loved you when we were 18. I loved you when we were apart. And I will love you every day for the rest of our lives. Thank you for giving me a second chance to be the man I always promised to be. In her vows, Grace said, You taught me that some loves are worth waiting for. That success is not measured in money, but in the people who stand beside us. Thank you for seeing me, for loving not just me but my daughter, for proving that fairy tales can come true, just not always on our timeline. As they danced at their reception, Sophie between them giggling, Grace thought about that chance meeting at an airport. How a forgotten wallet and a kind gesture had opened a door she thought was permanently closed. Sometimes the greatest love stories are not about finding someone new, but about finding your way back to where you belong, about second chances and promises kept, about 2 lonely people discovering that success means nothing without someone to share it with. And sometimes, the best coffee is the one that was waiting all along. If this story touched your heart, Please like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales of second chances and enduring love. Leave a comment sharing your own story of reconnecting with a lost love or finding hope in unexpected places. We would love to hear from you.